Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. This is our morning get-together live here on Facebook, where we take a look at all the news we can find that have to do with Puerto Vallarta, with our state, Jalisco, with Mexico, to find out how we can have an awesome life here in Puerto Vallarta as a community of English-speaking locals. My name is Paco. If this is the first time that you join us, feel free to let us know by writing the word new in your comments, and we will be glad to give you a proper welcome. Today, I'm joined by my lovely assistant, Luna, who is just chilling. Luna is thinking, well, it's a good thing we don't live in Colonia Amapas, because things got a little crazy in Colonia Amapas yesterday. We're going to talk about something that is... everybody's talking about it, and I'm sure you will be too if you love Puerto Vallarta. But before we get into that, let me also remind you that we go through the news and that we go through your comments at the end of the show. So if there's something really important that you want to bring up, please let us know by adding the letter Q at the beginning of your comment, and that way we'll be so very happy to address it. We don't have a lot of news today, but we have one bit of news that is really impressive and thought-provoking. We also have an update about vaccines for folks in their 40s, and we have a walk. It is Wednesday, and today we're going to take a look at where I went around Colonia Emiliano Zapata at the beginning of this week, on Monday, 2 days ago, when I was meeting some friends for lunch. So let us get going. Let me take a quick look at your comments. Lots of good mornings, but we'll get to those in the second half of the show. So, let's go to the news. Yes, so we were wondering, what else do we need? We've had crocodiles, we've had sharks, we've had parachuters, and I think we should stop asking what else could come next, because something really unexpected came next. Yesterday, a landslide took a chunk of hill in Colonia Amapas, destroying a road, the Santa Barbara Street. If this is first news to you, it was really impressive to watch. And in fact, let me do this in slightly a different order. Let me just show you what happened. Of all the videos that have come out, this is the one that shows it most eloquently. This is right at Los Muertos Beach, in this shutdown construction at the very end of the beach. We'll get into why it was shut down in a little while, but look at the side of the mountain go. Yes, it's a good thing that nobody was injured. As far as we know, some properties were damaged, and the whole street disappeared. So going back to this news note, We know that, well, I'm going to leave this link with you because this link has just about every single um, image you would want to see and every single video you would want to see. We can see a little bit of the street now that it's gone, and so forth and so on. Now, what happened here? Well, for short, we know that the land, that we've been getting a lot of rain, the land got weakened. In fact, the property that was scheduled to be built there had been raising a lot of eyebrows. Here is a rendering of what the building is supposed to look like when it's finished. It's at the very end of Los Muertos Beach. And early on in its construction process, it started ruffling a lot of feathers, people thinking, well, why is this being built here and why is it so high and so forth and so on. The property or the project was eventually shut down. As I understand it, it was shut down by Profepa, the environmental agency that oversees the different use of land in Puerto Vallarta. And it was shut down because they argued that it was weakening the soil and the land. And now we know that is the case. Here's another artist's rendering of how the building will or would have obstructed the view of the house behind it. This house now has part of its foundation suspended in the air because of the landslide. And of course, if we take a look at this photograph from Reporte Diario, I don't know that I can make it any bigger than what we see on the screen. But this shows you how that entire chunk of land has disappeared. And fortunately, again, nobody was injured in this unprecedented incident here in Puerto Vallarta. But again, it scared a bunch of people that were on the beach. We have no idea how this is going to be resolved. This has never happened before, and I can see right next to it on the right-hand side is Villa Verano, which is a beautiful compound. And this building, this building was there already. And there's I don't even have words to describe what the impact of this horrible situation. What will happen? Who knows? Well, first of all, I mean, there's a street to be rebuilt, but looking at the damage on the mountainside, I just don't know how they can come back and build a street where there used to be one. They would have to, well, I don't know much about engineering. Then there's the house behind the landslide. It has its foundation slightly suspended and there's some cracks in it. So we don't know what's going to happen with that house or who's going to be responsible for that. And last but not least, there is the developer that is trying to sell these units in this ginormous building that makes everything look dwarf and horrible. But, prices are crumbling down. This may be the time to go shopping for that. And of course, that was a very, very bad joke. But we can do that today because it's Wednesday. It's hump day. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyhow, going on with other news, I have some good news. It has been announced that people in their 40s will get their vaccine next week. Second vaccines for folks in their 40s are coming this coming week to Puerto Vallarta, according to the regional office for the Secretary of Well-Being. At this point, we don't have any specific information regarding the days in which these vaccines will be available. And we also don't have any information yet as to whether people trying to get their first vaccine of any age will be able to do that. We learned in the past vaccination campaign that the government was very specific in saying it was for folks in their 50s, and that's what it was. If you try to go get your first vaccine, regardless of your age, you were not able to do that. So we are going to remain vigilant as always here at Coffee and Headlines to try to bring you updated information about this very, very important matter. And I'm sure that we will continue to hear about this tragedy in Amapas and whether something is going to be done and how soon. Let us move on to the weather just to see what we can expect for the rest of the week. And after that, we have a couple other announcements, and then we'll continue with our Wednesday walk. We haven't had one of those in a while, but we were out. And as long as we have to be out, we might as well document what is around us. But first, the weather. Oh no, Cuomo gets in the mix. Snarky Weather says, wait, I thought politicians weren't supposed to resign anymore, no matter how much terrible stuff they were caught doing. Well, that's what happens. And that's what Snarky Weather has to say today. Today is, we have 27 degrees. It's 1 degree cooler than yesterday, and we welcome that. However, humidity is high at 93%. And our temperature in Fahrenheit degrees is 81. Our weather forecast for today calls for rain. Well, it rained early in the morning, and it'll rain again in the evening with a high temperature of 32 for today, a low temperature of 24. Tomorrow, Thursday, we will probably have some light rain in the evening. I say probably, the weather says possibly. High temperature of 32, low temperature of 24. And then on Friday, we'll have possible light rain in the evening and overnight with a high temperature of 31, low temperature of 24. You're probably wondering what's triggering the weather these days, and I can tell you that it is because we have a new tropical storm in town. This would be Tropical Storm Linda. She has formed in the Pacific coast and bringing rain in the region for the rest of the week, just like its predecessor, Tropical Storm Kevin. Linda is headed away from the coast of Mexico. Let me show them both to you so you can see what's going on. There is Kevin cheerfully heading away from our country, and there is Linda, and Linda is scheduled to move in the same direction as Kevin. So we will have rain, which we welcome. Hopefully, no more landslides, and that's the weather forecast for the next few days. Lastly, I want to talk to you about vehicle verification. We know that mandatory vehicle verification has begun in the Guadalajara metropolitan area, and now it's coming to Puerto Vallarta as we learn the construction of the first verification center in the region. It has begun. It will be located in Las Juntas near the bus depot and across the street from the military zone. Now, what does vehicle verification mean? It means that you now have to make sure that your vehicle is in best possible condition if you're driving it, if it's a local vehicle. If your vehicle is from elsewhere, you are going to eventually need a special permit to come here with your vehicle and spend time in the area as a tourist for however long you're going to be. This is all fueled, no pun intended, by our state's commitment to making sure that our environment is well taken care of. And we know that vehicles that are not in top condition are bound to emit more pollution than others. And these are the news that we have. Let us go for a quick walk around Colonia Emiliano Zapata, and then we will go ahead and take a look at your comments. And we walk. Yay! Nothing fancy, just taking a look at the neighborhood.
Hello everyone, it is Monday morning and I find myself at Lázaro Cárdenas Park. I'm running errands in the city and I have to meet some friends on the other side of Colonia Emiliano Zapata. So this is a totally unscheduled, unprepared, unrehearsed, spontaneous walk through Emiliano Zapata. We haven't been in this side of town for almost a month, and I figured as long as I have to get from point A to point B, we might as well see what looks new. So we're gonna walk until I get to my destination, and we'll have just about the right amount of time to get a sense as to what the streets look like. Of course, it is Monday morning. Actually, it's Monday at noon right now. Or it's gonna be noon shortly. So it's not like we can expect to see a lot of activity. But it's also interesting to see how many tourists we find walking around the city, particularly those that are not wearing a face mask.
And I must stop the video for a second and let you know that every time I'm out walking with a camera and I see people walking around without a face mask, I am so tempted to engage. But we won't and we shouldn't, and all we can do is keep walking. But it really... Don't get me started.
As we mentioned in this morning's broadcast, our governor was scheduled to meet with his health board this morning. We don't know if there's going to be any new closures or not. But life goes on.
I'm really
Buen día.
Some of your comments are priceless today. As soon as you start getting away from the tourist area, things start looking very peaceful. But you will notice how there's a bunch of businesses that are not even open to begin with, like shops and things like that. I thought it was a little sad. A beautiful day to be walking out, that's for sure.
It's interesting to see how there are a lot of stores that are closed, even during what one could consider business hours. Then again, it is that time of the year in which a lot of business owners whoa, where did this come from?
Look at that.
Okay, so see, I spend a lot of time at home and look at this building. It is a lot larger than the last time that I walked down this street. Amazing. Or it looks like two separate projects, maybe. Yes, that would be two separate projects, but this is news to me.
Nobody told me.
There's a Danish bakery here. That was there before. This used to be cookie karaoke, and now it's being fixed up to become something else, or maybe the same thing. Oh, this is where La Tia Catrina is. I'd heard about that, but I never knew where it was.
it's deceiving to be in the middle of a pandemic and you go out and walk out on the street and everything looks so normal and beautiful, but that's part of the problem, and that's part of the perception problem. When people walk around, they feel like nothing's going wrong or nothing's going on for them in a mask, but the reality is very different. And I'm deliberately trying to talk over the music so that YouTube will not.
We've reached Insurgentes. Boy, that other building has had lots of work done. And it's getting closer to completion, I suppose. In fact, let's walk down that street, because I think that's the street I'm supposed to be on.
Anyhow, I didn't want YouTube suspending my video because of copyrighted music in the background. It's happened before. I've gotten flagged when I'm walking around and people are playing music on their radio. YouTube doesn't like that. Oh, Christy, that is so sweet. Look at that.
Wow, this one is almost ready for showtime. I wonder if some of the units...
Oh, and this one is called Avida. Avida. So make sure you don't remember that, because civilized people like you and I know the street address of our buildings, right? But this one is called Avida. So you can now forget that fact and go figure out the street address.
Already being occupied.
Oh, it's Avida with an accent on the A. I didn't know that. Well, we still need the street address. What is ADA? Oh, ADA. What is ADA, Terry? Please let us know.
Then there's that place called Jesse and James, Los Borrachos, which I remember was opening at some point, and clearly it was not a good time for them. The place is closed, and it's a sign that says for rent.
Oh, no wonder we don't know what it is. American Disability.
As you know, the further one gets in this direction down any of the streets in Colonia Emiliano Zapata, the further one gets away from the beach, the less of a touristy neighborhood it feels like, and the more you can appreciate the local feel of the neighborhood. Lots of budget hotels along the street. Hotel Anaís, Hotel Cartagena de Indias. These are very, very basic hotels.
Lots of birdies.
There's a brand new place, well, brand new to me, Casa 449, Comedor Contemporáneo, or Contemporary Diner. That one is new as well. And I think I am approaching my destination. So I'm going to cross the street And I'm going to say farewell. Again, this was completely unscheduled, unanticipated, but I wanted to give you a sense as to what it looks like. Actually, it looks pretty quiet for the most part. Of course, we were not in the very touristy areas close to the ocean. I did see some tourists hanging out on Olas Altas, but I'm glad to be not needing to be in that general part of the city, at least in the next few days. Oh, this is a good place to stop, right under this concrete sombrero.
Sombrero.
One has to wonder who built this and why. But here it is. We'll say goodbye under the house with a concrete sombrero. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again soon.
Yay! Yay! And that was our little spontaneous, unprepared, unrehearsed, just spontaneous walk. Now we can rewind our comments just to see what everybody is thinking, what everybody is doing, what everybody is up to. As always, we express gratitude for all the good mornings. We don't stop and say hello to everyone because then you guys think that we are in Romper Room. And sometimes it feels like Romper Room. But David opens up by saying derrumbe. What a great... You should try this word because derrumbe has that double R. It just feels good. Derrumbe means when something crumbles. Derrumbe. Just practice that, and it's a great word to practice your rolling R's. Let's see. John asks, any update? Well, I just gave you the news as we know them, John. I am sure that at some point we may hear from the government. We may hear from the real estate developer. Actually, the real estate developer must be really unhappy. First, they get shut down for legal or illegal maneuvering. I don't know. And then imagine getting a phone call. It's like, oh, your whole project has collapsed and it took away part of a home and it took away a street. I don't know that I would want to get that phone call. And Heather, yes, I don't think we're going to be asking what next anymore because it seems like every time we ask, something happens. Let's see what else is going on. The live video was scary, absolutely. And you'll have the links to watch and rewatch to your heart's delight in the show notes. Oh dear. Good morning from crumbling Amapas, Angelo. Oh, it is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, I was just driving I was just walking down that street not even too long ago. I had a photo shoot next door at the property next door. I had a photo shoot less than 2 months ago. And after I was done, I came walking down that street. And Ramona, you're absolutely right. It's sad to see the devastation. A lot of people commenting were very, very quick, very, very quick to condemn all the development that's going on in the mountain. And I think regardless of the reasons, the scientific reasons why the mountain collapsed, there is going to be a lot of public opinion that is going to chastise all the development that is going on in the mountains. And I say that just based on some of the comments that I've heard and that I've read on social media so far. Oh, I am definitely very proud of you, Matthew. I love my Flexi shoes. They are very comfortable. They're not the most inexpensive shoes out there, but they're very well made. They're Mexican and they last forever. I totally side with you, Stephanie. We wouldn't be commenting so lightly if lives had been lost. But still, I mean, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And yes, Michal, Jumanji is still happening here at Puerto Jumanji. Jorge thinks Locust is next. I certainly hope not. Stephanie's counting plagues. Jorge is asking for the what the fuck parrot. Almost. David is betting on a water spout. Well, it is hurricane season. I mean, we still, if we want to have something to really, really put the icing on the cake, we could have one headed directly our way, and that would be absolutely horrible. So we hope that that's not going to be the case. Let's see. Oh, Julie, yes, I didn't report on this because it was so silly. A photograph was posted on social photograph or video. I don't even remember. You know how La Isla, the shopping center, has that water canal? Well, somebody started publishing photos of a guy that was leisurely swimming in the canal at the La Isla Mall. For starters, ew, having to swim in that murky water, I don't think so. But now it seems that it was not a drunk tourist or some person that just wanted to be fancy or anything. And apparently it was part of the maintenance crew that was doing some cleanup. But still, I saw the photographs of the man swimming in the canal at La Isla, and I thought, really? Seriously? I mean, it's hot out there, but Jesus, give me a break. Let's see. I saw a live broadcast of the landslide from the neighbor, and it looked like the house off Santa Barbara would lose its swimming pool. Yes, I saw that live broadcast too, and it's a guy living on the building next door. You'll see excerpts of that in the show notes, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. Joe says the house is beautiful inside and may have to be torn down now. Well, at the very least, I certainly hope that they will evacuate it if there are any guests or property owners living there right now, because, it's not going to stop raining. I don't know if this is irony or what. There are some very affordable Airbnbs in Amapas. No, thank you. No, thank you. There's many other places in the city where I would rather stay. What should happen is a building moratorium for all oceanfront construction. Wouldn't that be lovely? It would be absolutely lovely. Candace says, if it takes 2 years to dig a hole for a building, it's probably not a good idea to build. Makes me mad. Collapses have happened before, just not on this scale. This is absolutely true. And if it takes 2 years to dig a hole for a building, just imagine how long it is going to take for that street to be rebuilt. And that street, Santa Barbara Street, I've walked it up and down, and a lot of people that work, forget about the owners. The owners of those villas are probably getting about on their vehicles, but a lot of people that work in Amapas, construction workers, house staff, so forth and so on, that's the only way they can get back into town, because if you want to go back into town from the highway, you have to walk further south, climb up, and it's not the easiest thing to do. So this is going to cause some impact in traffic. It's going to cause some impact in the way people go back and forth to work if they're working in that part of town. So sad to see people going for the big buck without taking into consideration the safety of others, says Anna Sparks. Well, it's not the first time that this happens. There's that other building just a block away from Hotel Mercurio that is called, it's the building at the end of the street. It's called some coordinates, 105, 10 something, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that building was actually built on a street. It was one of those maneuvers that a previous government pulled out of a hat just at the end of the administration, and an entire building was built on a pedestrian street. And if that had been told to me while I was condo shopping, I probably would not have wanted to buy a condo there. But I visited that building not too long ago, and I said to the owner, did you know that you are living in a building that is very, very disliked? And he's like, oh. And I told the owner the story, and he had no idea. Let's see. Where did you buy them? If this has anything to do with Flexi shoes come from the Flexi stores. And Flexi stores are located in just about every shopping center in Mexico. We have a Flexi store in where Liverpool is. They have another Flexi store at Plaza Caracol. Um, let's see. Oh, Dan has a personal experience with mudslides. I was caught in one while driving to work a few years ago. Car was destroyed, and I walked away with burns from the airbags and no other injuries. Then, oh my God, that's horrible. And I can see how this would be difficult for you to watch. Um, how many houses are located past where the street collapsed? Oh my goodness, quite a few. Quite a few. I can even go through the trouble of going to maps. Let me show you an aerial view of where this happened, just so that this can make more sense. Hold on just a second. Okay, so here we are. Okay, there we go. So here is. Oh, I'm lost. No, I'm not lost. Here we go. Here's Calle Santa Bárbara. Here's Calle Santa Bárbara. And here is the plot of land. I believe it's this one where the landslide fell, because yes, there is Mesa del Mar, there is Vallarta Shores, and I think it's right here because Villa Verano is right here. So yes, this is the bit of land. This is the edge of the building. This house. This is the edge of the building that collapsed, and this is the whole street that is no longer there. So if you continue going on this street, there are all these houses that now the only way they can come back onto the road is heading south, following Calle Santa Bárbara, all the way down here and all the way down here. And it's finally down here in Calle Amapas that you can get back onto the highway. The only other option would be if somehow you were able to walk down to the beach, and you can walk back through to town through the beach. But this is not going to be a pleasant thing to do, again, if you're working in that general area. How far is Villa Celeste from the mudslide? Luisa asks. Paco answers, Luisa, give me a street address for Villa Celeste and I'll be happy to answer that question. Let's see. Let's see. Video opener, you crack me up. You crack me up, my dear friend. It's great to see you, Earl. You came up in conversation when I was out having lunch with my friend David the other day, because he's from Massachusetts. He lives not far from the Sagamore Bridge, so it was interesting to talk about landmarks from the Boston area and say words like Tobin Bridge and Sagamore Bridge. I hadn't thought about those landmarks in forever. Joanne, Tomale. You had me at Tomale last week. Any other Australians in your cluster? Not that I know of, but it's a pleasure to have you, Joanne. We are going to continue saying Tomale whenever we see some injustice happening and some karma being reverted. With the pollution, do you need to have an obligatory test done in your vehicle? The answer is yes, in the state of Jalisco. In Mexico City, for example, you now have, well, for many, many years, you can only drive your vehicle on certain days according to the last digit in your license plate. They are in the state of Jalisco. They're starting to use the last digit of the license plate to determine what month of the year you have to have your car inspected. And this is mandatory now. Again, not in the Puerto Vallarta area. They need to build the verification center first. But it is coming. It is coming. Any information as to the cost of vehicle registration? Also, any information on fines for failure to comply? Not specifically, not yet, at least not here, Jim. I think I know I read about the cost of verification. It was not a lot of money. I think it was like around 500 pesos, but please don't quote me. Please don't quote me. Since this is not happening in Puerto Vallarta, we have chosen not to pay much attention to this, but we will continue to be vigilant as it starts happening in the Bay Area. Um, let's see what else. Suzanne says hello from San Miguel de Allende, where everyone wears face masks except for some arrogant gringos. Well, you are a gringo, so you can say that. I don't feel comfortable saying that about tourists, but I miss you, my friend. I miss you and husband. I wish you have a good time in San Miguel de Allende. I miss doing music appreciation lectures and seeing your beautiful face. That's what I miss. And running into you about town or running into you at concerts in Guadalajara. Um, oh, my goodness. Anyhow, let's see what else we have. Um, Matthew asks, how are the mosaics coming along on the benches in Parque Lázaro Cárdenas? Has the work continued? As far as I know, the work must be continuing. Occasionally, I see it mentioned on social media. They're always looking for volunteers to help out. But again, given the pandemic, I actually don't know if they are doing it right now. But if you are particularly interested about this, let me know, Matthew, and I'll put you in touch with people that can provide us with a more specific answer. Um, let's see what else. Comments about the walk. Thank you very much. Christy says 3 months to go and I will be there. Yay! Let's go out for dinner, Christy. And Michal and Barry are coming back. That's wonderful. And then we get into the ADA compliant part of the comments. I kept reading through those. Dan is also homesick. So if some way I am fueling your desire to come back, this is a good thing. This is a very good thing. Um, Dave Schwartz says, we don't call it whatever it's called. We just call it Cine Bahia. And that's because there was one of the original movie theaters in Puerto Vallarta used to be located at that corner. Why would it be ADA compliant if in Mexico? I think it just gives people that are familiar with the initials some sense of security. You know, if I was living in the United States and I was shopping for a place to live, and in Mexico they said that this particular building is ADA compliant, then that would be something that I would understand because I'm from the United States and that means something to me. Down here in Mexico, ADA, it doesn't mean the same thing. In fact, I don't know what it would mean in Mexico. Let's see. That's not necessarily true, Linda. What good are street addresses when most of the streets don't have signs? Well, you're right. Some street addresses don't have signs. Some street addresses do have signs. But if you take into account that more often than not, we find ourselves maneuvering from one place to another using our phones and a map and things like that, the maps do have street addresses. And in fact, the maps do not necessarily show the pretty names of the pretty buildings where pretty people live. The bottom line, Linda, if you want to order something from Amazon, you don't place your order and say, oh, I live in Avida apartment number 12. You have to learn your street address. That's my point. Let's see what else we have. Oh, wasn't it pretty? I thought it was really pretty. I had just made the necklace the day before, but my friend Joey said I want it. Sorta. I kind of gave it to him. But I'll make another one. I'll make another one just like that because that was a fun design. Let's see what else. Makes me feel like we're there with you. That's the general idea. Thank you very much, Bronica. Let's see. I always stay at the Azteca. Those hotels are really convenient and very budget basic. If all you need is a place to crash, uh, they're perfectly good. You really seem to be anti-tourist. Let me tell you where I'm coming from, Jim. It's not that I am anti-tourist, and I've never really talked about this for ever since we started the broadcast. Number one, no, I am not anti-tourist. I know perfectly well that our city derives its economic prosperity for the most part from tourism. I think that is beautiful. Personally, I spent 15 years of my life as a journalist working to benefit tourism. So I'm very happy that I don't have to work for tourists anymore. It's not that I am anti tourist, it's that there is a huge amount of information. There is an astronomical amount of information available in the world, online, in town for tourists. There is not nearly that much amount of information available in town for English speaking locals. So it's not so much that I am anti tourist, it's more that I am pro locals. And not only English speaking locals, I am very much fond of English speaking locals like you who are immersed in the culture, who are concerned about the issues of Mexico, who want to know more about how we live. If you give me an English speaking local that has been living here for 25 years and can still not speak a single word of Spanish, or that doesn't care about the difference between September 16 and May the 5th, you know, no, that's not somebody that I'm interested. In fact, I am more anti-English speaking locals that are not immersed in Mexico culturally, socially, or otherwise than I am about tourists. Now, that said, if you give me a tourist, one that is on vacation and is not behaving responsibly, of course I am anti-tourist. But no, it's not so much that I hate tourists. I like tourists, but tourists have very few little business being here at Coffee and Headlines. If we have interesting, smart, engaging questions from a tourist, of course we're going to address them here. But if a tourist comes into a Coffee and Headlines and asks, how far is the beach from Calle Insurgentes? It's kind of like, well, get a map or find that information elsewhere. We're more concerned about things that have to do with locals. And I hope you liked my explanation, Jim. And if you didn't, what am I going to do? Let's see. Wow, cool sombrero. That's the concrete sombrero. You won't find another building like that in Puerto Vallarta. And how crazy is that? Was I almost at Mi Cafe? Yes, I was half a block away from it. And I just saw the hat and I was like, oh my God, what a perfect place to end. Cafe 449 has been there since at least October last year. I'm not familiar with Cafe 449, but that's good to know. Never knew that was a sombrero 10 years walking by. Well, it looks like a sombrero. I mean, it could be an extraterrestrial homing device, but what do I know? Jorge adds to my explanation. No, it's not that we're anti-tourist. It's just that we don't sell, we don't distribute, we don't share information for tourists here, just like you don't find trucks or convertible vehicles at the supermarket. I mean, we cater to English-speaking locals. We don't cater to English-speaking tourists, plain and simple. Another person that never saw the sombrero, fascinating. Let's see what else we have. My heart goes out to those who live near there. I walked out that route daily when in Conchachinas. Yes, I hear you. I hear you very much. Let's see what else. I think the landslide is God's way of saying stop. I am sure you're right. She must be really concerned about the well-being of our mountains. Oh, I so hope you're wrong, Mary. I don't wish it, because there seems to be some juju going around that if we wish for things to happen, no, we don't want the building next to Lázaro Cárdenas to collapse unless they demolish it, and they probably should. It's been dormant for such a long time. I don't even know if it's worth building again. But again, I am not an expert on these matters. Um, Not familiar with the street that collapsed. Is there an alternative route out for other residents? We just looked at it through the map, so I'm sure you saw that as well, Scott. Let's see. Thanks for showing Google View. Holy cow, didn't realize such a big impact on the calles Santa Barbara. Yes, I mean, this is huge. It's huge. It's crazy huge. Let's see. The owners next to the slide are also behind with the pool and are full-time residents here in Vallarta and have other accommodations for the time being. Good. We want everybody to be safe. Absolutely. Let's see what else. Javi, nice. ADA compliant until you reach the sidewalk. Oh, Dave, you are really on a roll today. Thank you very much. Oh, too funny. Okay, we're almost at the end of your comments, and we have gone over our usual length on our broadcast. Well said, Paco. It's all about information and how all that information is accessible for the local community. You see, that's the thing. Locals, tourists don't realize that English-speaking locals, we have very different needs. We have to pay taxes. We have to get around. We have to buy supplies. We have to deal with workers, with contractors. Heaven forbid, we don't want to stay in our little mini neighborhood like a lot of tourists do. We want to explore Mexico. We want to see other things. We want to understand why there are parades down the street when they are. We are curious about the history of Mexico. We are curious about customs and traditions. They're very different mindset, if you ask me. And that's what we're going to continue to do. Let's see what else. Well said, Paco. It's important for locals to have the same access to information and resources, and that information is lacking here. Not entirely, Charlotte. I will say that there are publications in English, and for the most part, they cater to tourists. I wouldn't be surprised if one other publication or two eventually started seeing the light, and I think it has to do with seeing the light and realizing that there's 35,000 of you English-speaking locals living in the Bay, many of you year-round, some of you seasonally, but it's not a small number of people with important needs, and we're happy to address them here as much as we can. It will be interesting to see who gets scapegoat for this derrumbe. You mean, Heather, who gets the tomale? Well, yes, we will continue to see. We'll continue to follow this, and I think we are definitely at the end of our broadcast. This was Coffee and Headlines for Hump Day. We're not going to wish for anything else because we don't want anything else crazy to happen. Let us wish for a normal Thursday and a normal rest of the week. And that's what we have. Again, thank you, locals. If there are tourists among you, if I ruffled your feather, tourists, well, you know, there are plenty of places where you can hang out. You're welcome to hang out here if you are voyagers, more so than tourists. And that's what it is. That's what we cater for. So if you were amused, if you were surprised, if you were enlightened, if you were inspired or otherwise taken away from your other activities for the last 40 minutes, keep us in mind. We exist thanks to your kind contributions. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/OjedaPaco and buy Luna and I a cup of coffee or two. You can also get a subscription, get a membership, and that way you can help things like these walking tours and our restaurant guides happen and continue. So that's what we have. Go have a great day. Watch out for the weather. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay in touch. Have a great one.